Hi, everyone. Shannon here with Mental Health Louisville and Therapy by Shannon. Today, like always, we're answering a question that was asked by you guys. Found someone in the mental health and wellness community that's an expert in this area to answer it for you. Today, we have Megan Cole with us. She is the Kentucky Chapter Area Director for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. And if you guys want to get involved with that organization or learn more at all about any of their offerings, just go to afsp.org/Kentucky and you can learn all sorts of things. I know Megan is also going to provide some resources with us towards the end of this video. So make sure to go to those resources too to learn more about all things. But thanks, Megan, for being with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so we have a great question for you that came in. Let's see. How can I talk to my friend or a family member if they're having suicidal thoughts?
This is a really important question. And it's always important to just be there and listen. So when you start that conversation, be sure to kind of keep it casual. Don't approach it in a really intense way. We need to be able to talk to each other about mental health the same way we talk about physical health.
Yeah.
You can tell somebody, hey, I'm having really bad heartburn today. You should be able to say, hey, I'm having a rough mental health day.
Mm-hmm.
And it should be the same way. So that can be the same way that you approach the subject with somebody else. So if you have a friend that you're concerned about, and you're not really sure how to start that conversation, you can just say, hey, I've been having some struggles with my mental health. I've just felt kind of down lately. Do you ever have any problems with that? Can be a really great way to show that you're empathetic and a natural way to start that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
If you're kind of nervous about this and you're looking for some conversation starters, I'd recommend seizetheawkward.org. This has some really great resources on conversation starters and just different ways that you can initiate that difficult conversation. It's got some videos that can show you some examples. And then it also has some additional guides for during the conversation.
Oh, that's really nice. Yeah. Yeah. Something to kind of help or assist, whether it's a script or just examples to kind of keep that door open. Because I feel like so often in our lives, but also I think kind of culture wise, it's kind of like a closed door topic of like,
Mm-hmm.
we don't want to talk about it, where it's like, why not? You know, like
Right.
it's a part of a lot of our lives.
Absolutely. Everybody has mental health. So talking about it should be really normal, but it's not in our culture. But the more we talk about it, the more normal it will become. So it's just really important to be casual about it, but also let your friends know that you're somebody that they can talk to.
Mm-hmm.
So making sure that even if you're not worried about a specific person having a mental health problem, that you're letting your friends know that like, hey, if something's going on, I'm always a safe person to talk to. You can always come to me to talk about things.
Yeah.
And then just whenever they do approach you, just make sure that you are listening more than talking, giving people that chance to open up. Don't ask things with judgment or try to fix things. We so often just want to jump in and tell people, well, this is what you should do. This will fix your problem. But that's not helpful to somebody when they're struggling with their mental health. They really just need somebody to listen.
Yeah.
So it's not something you really need to overthink. It's just being there for the person. Oftentimes that's enough.
Yeah.
But if it goes a little further than that and you're worried that the person is struggling with suicide thoughts, or maybe they had made a plan, that's when you need to take some additional steps to try to connect them with mental health,
Mm-hmm.
stay with them to make sure they're safe, maybe ask if there's somebody else they need to be bringing into the conversation, perhaps with a teenager or young adult, maybe talking to them, seeing if their parent needs to be brought into the conversation or another safe adult.
Yeah.
And then connecting them. One of the easiest things we can do is share the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, 1-800-273-8255. And if the person isn't comfortable calling that line themselves, you can call and talk to a counselor and they can help walk you through that.
Yep.
And if you or your friend aren't comfortable talking, you can also text the crisis line. So you just text talk to 741-741 and get connected with a counselor. So really great and easy steps that you can take.
Yeah.
But it's important in that moment to ask directly if you're worried that that person is thinking about suicide, to directly ask, are you thinking about taking your life? Or are things ever so bad that you think about suicide? Being very direct about it. When we phrase it in different ways, like, you're not thinking about suicide, are you? That already implies some judgment, and it's not an open question. It kind of shuts it down. So that person's not going to be as comfortable being honest with you.
Yeah.
But when we're direct, people tend to be pretty honest about what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah. And even posing those questions, kind of compared to, sometimes, on the clinical aspect, I'm a therapist on like assessing for risk and those type things. It's like, are you going to harm yourself and are you going to kill yourself are very different things. And so as a friend or clinician, whoever is posing these questions, of knowing that like by asking those questions and by asking, have you ever had thoughts of killing yourself? That's another way of opening this door that is like someone else is naming it. And if I've had them, like I can be like, oh yeah. But if no one's ever bringing that into the conversation, we're never talking about it, we're only talking about nothing, maybe, then
Right.
I don't feel like there's room possibly or safety in this space or whatever it may be to bring that up. And it may be a big safety concern, of course.
And for so long, people thought that if you bring up suicide, that you're putting that idea in someone's head. And that's a huge myth. If you're not going to plant a new idea in their head. If somebody's already thinking about suicide, you're just giving them the opportunity to talk. And
Yeah.
if they're not thinking about suicide, you've just shown them that you care, and that if they ever are having those thoughts, you're somebody that they can reach out to. So it's a win-win no matter who you ask.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that you brought that up because so many times, and working with people who've had a loved one or a parent, struggling with suicidal thoughts is that like, well, I didn't want to bring it up because they were like doing good now. And I'm like, again, like checking in, assessing, having connection and conversation over these things is so great to kind of have reinforced that like it's not going to drop that idea in their head. It's just going to, again, create space for them to share and talk about things if they need to.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you talk to somebody and then they do get mental health support, they seek out professional treatment and they're doing a lot better, that doesn't mean you have to stop having that conversation. You can still be checking in. Hey, how's therapy going? Are you still seeing that psychiatrist? How are you doing talking to your family about your mental health? There's really easy ways that you can just normalize this conversation with your loved ones at any time. It doesn't have to be in a point of crisis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the normalization is so key. And I know that's something, you guys, of course, at your organization do so much of, and like slowly but surely the world is catching on to some of this mental health normalization and destigmatization, but it really is like ways that we can bring it into our everyday life. And like, yeah, like it's so important to be able to know that there's someone or some place or something that has that space and safety to be able to talk about things, whatever they may be, mental health related. But especially in times where people are having thoughts of suicide, because again, a lot of people do, and a lot of people don't always share that. And so it can sometimes feel more isolating when we have them because we don't always know who else is having them because we don't
Yeah.
know about it.
We see the perfect lives on social media and we think, oh, well, this person's doing great. Why am I struggling? So it's really important that we're being honest about our own mental health and really having those conversations with each other, because that'll make it normal and it'll make help so much more accessible to people when they're in crisis. And another thing is being really proactive. So not only being proactive in ways of normalizing that conversation, but being proactive about your own mental health. So I always recommend people make a list of 5 people they can reach out to if they're having struggles with their mental health.
Yeah.
It can be a family member, a friend, a teacher. You can have the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline and the text line on there. It could be me, but somebody that you can vent to, that you can open up about any struggles. Because sometimes when you're overwhelmed with your mental health, it's really hard to think clearly and think of who should I talk to about this. So having that plan ahead of time, even writing it out like you do with other emergency numbers. I have a toddler and we keep poison control and his pediatrician and all of those numbers easily accessible. So we should do the same thing with any sort of numbers that can help with our mental health.
Yeah. And I'm not even going to try to remember the name because I'm totally blanking on it, but I know there is an app out there where it's like a kind of like a safety app where it's kind of like can be used for all sorts of things, but they have a mental health space in there. And I will remember the name of the app and I'll put it in the comments.
Yeah.
But
It's called like I think it's called My Three Safety app.
it might be, yeah.
Something about that. And it helps you
Like
develop a
you can put in,
safety
yeah, you can put in numbers, you can put in like your coping skills, you can put in
Yeah.
different things that can like be a visual kind of slap in the face reminder of like, oh yes, I have these resources.
Yes. That's a really great resource to use.
Yeah.
And I also recommend, so we have a campaign called #RealConvo.
Okay.
So we have a web page specifically for that. It's afsp.org/realcombo. It goes along with the Seize the Awkward resources really well. But there's different guides that you can go through. If you're struggling and need to reach out, how to reach out to somebody.
Okay.
If you're worried about somebody, how to reach out to them. It's got different social shares on there, so you can post some graphics letting people know on your social media that you're a safe person to talk to.
Oh, cool.
And then it's got different blogs and stories on there about people with their mental health and how they take care of it. And
Yeah.
sometimes that might be a way to start a conversation. Like, hey, I saw this blog post, made me think of you. Let me know if you ever want to talk.
Yeah.
So it's just a lot of different ways and resources that you can take a look at if you want to have this kind of conversation with someone in your life.
Yeah. No, I really like that. And I know you've mentioned lots of resources and you're going to send them all to me and I will add them all so you guys can kind of have them all in the description. But yeah, I don't know. Thank you so much for spending some time with us and answering this very important question. Is there anything else you want to leave our audience with?
One thing I always tell people is just trust your gut. If you're thinking about somebody or worried about them, be the one to reach out. Assume that you're going to be the only one to reach out,
Yeah.
because talk saves lives. So having this conversation can make a huge difference. And if we have multitudes of people having these conversations, then we can really help bring down suicide rates.
Yeah. 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 I love that. I think that's even like the be the one hashtag. I
Yeah.
remember that one. Yeah. Remember all these hashtags.
Yeah.
But like I said, thank you so much, Megan.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everyone, again, if you have a question about mental health or wellness, just DM us. We will get that answered for you by a professional in the field. But until next time, enjoy and be safe.
Thank you.